sure if you're familiar with these systems. Systems 1 and 2 is very low input. System 3 is what we would class as medium, and systems 4 and 5 is classed as high input. There's numbers and percentages for that. If you want to know, have a chat with me later. But anyway, they analysed how these farms, how these different classes of farms were operating under a low payout. And when you go down the bottom and you look at the operating profit per hectare, there's not much in it. It doesn't really matter what system you run. The operating profit per hectare is about the same. Similar for the debt per kilo, if I can get that thing to go. There's not a lot happening there. If anything, you could say, well, look, that one looks a little bit more attractive, but it's not very strong. What you can say is that the risk in those high input systems is inevitably a bit higher. So, knowing that, you would expect certain behaviour, and that certain behaviour hasn't really happened. The bank's attitudes as a general has been as follows. They now are pushing for a 15% equity or better, where 60% was quite acceptable, 70% of that if they knew the people, if they had some confidence. That's come way back to 50%, and if you can get it lower than that, higher equity percentage than that, then great. Debt per kilo is very much a push to get that down to 20 kg per solids, kilos of solids or less. There's been a concerted effort by the banks to get farmers to budget and to produce cash flows and focus on cost of production per kilo of milk solids. That's the stock standard New Zealand response. You've got to have low cost milk. And there's been a real push from the banks and other institutes to go away from the systems 4 and 5, go away from inputs. Although that's not backed up by those figures I just showed you. We just legalised cannabis to some extent, so you might see a few of these guys starting to think about alternatives for dairy farming. Way back, 2000, 70% of New Zealand's farms were low input. You look at 13, 14, that was the first really high payout year. By that stage, it had developed to give or take a third low input and high and medium with the rest. High had grown from a meager 13% to nearly a third. But that was 13, 14. Then this happened. 14, 15, a muted response. There was some reduction of input. And 15, 16, I've just been given these numbers by Dairy and Z. They calculated a 25% reduction in inputs counting from 14, 15 down to 15, 16. Pasture and crop consumption had lifted by 2.5%. And the total feed consumed had dropped by 2.5%. And down below you can see the number of farms this was calculated over, so you could be a little bit skeptical and say that doesn't necessarily paint the full picture. If you look at the dollar spend, that shows a similar picture, quite steep drops not only in the tons that were put in of imported feed, also the dollar spend dropped back quite severely. That's the volume of PK imported into New Zealand over time, and you see that steep dip here in the last quarter of 15, 16. It's since recovered, and I'm still on track to keep this graph growing as before. Breeding, well, it's it's not really honest what I'm doing here, but the trend in breeding has changed long before these big swings in payout. So a move away from the pure Holstein Friesian lines and the pure Jersey lines and towards more of a cross, and it's still going on. So what happened? These the Fonterra payout up top in red, the big sawtooth, and as a response, the blue line did dip. Initially, when we had the first nice bit of payout, towards the left of the graph, the farm working expenses ramped up, then got sticky, and more or less stayed around that $4. And it's only just recently that we've been able to box them back a little bit under, just a little bit under $4. You drill down a bit into that. What made up those? What made up those farm working expenses? Down the bottom are the ones that people haven't been able to shift. The blue and the green represent the shed costs and the herd costs. They've hardly moved. Yes, the interest costs and the cash overhead costs ramped up a little bit at the first lift and payout way back in 07, 08. Then they stuck around and they haven't really moved since. So the only one left is the feed cost. That's the variable cost. And predictably, people go into their accounts and say, what can I change? It's the feed cost. So that's where people focus. But that may have some unwanted buy effects if you start changing things too rapidly. Pasture renewal, people have been spending more money on that, but then probably forcibly in 14, 15, 15, 16, that's my cue. They had to tie back. Then fodder beet happened. It's been a real change, especially in the South Island. I'll give you a list of positives and negatives and why people may have changed to this system. Very high yields, 25, 30, 40 tonne even, and therefore a relatively low cost per kilo dry matter, and per cents per megajoule of heat. High energy content, very palatable, virtually zero wastage. It's mostly grazed in situ. There's a little bit of lifting going on, but it adds another 5 cents per kilo or so. So where and when you can, it's grazed in situ. It's planted in October, November, and then grazed from mid-April. You can graze it earlier, but you just give up too much yield. It's suitable for more or less every class of stock, except springs. It's sky high in sodium and also in potash, so it's creating trouble if you feed too much of it in the spring period. And as a rough rule of thumb, 8 or 9% of your farm area planted in fodder beet will look after your forage requirements for the entire season. Not your dry cows, that's system use. And in 2013 we had about 10,000 hectares. Now it might be about double. I couldn't find any official numbers. Nothing is entirely terrific. There are some downsides. If you stuff it up and you don't get your crop, you've just burned $2,500 per hectare. High sugar content can and will blow over cows. If you don't do it properly and you feed them up too fast, you'll get acidosis. And yes, you'll kill cows and you'll get sick cows that don't really recover. The high dry matter varieties, the heifers don't really eat them. So if you don't watch that, they'll starve. Low in minerals, especially phosphorus, K and sodium are high. Virtually no trace minerals in there. There's potential for nitrates, oxalates, and mud and pucking can be a real problem when it's wet. And when it's wet and muddy, the cows won't sit down, so they won't chew the cud, and they don't extract the energy that's potentially available. And then lastly, We've imported some lovelies like velvet leaf, very invasive, aggressive weed, and it came in with a batch of contaminated seed. I'm not going to go into the detail of that, except it'll cost you about $2,500 a hectare to grow this stuff. But that's all right. If you end up with 25 ton, 30 ton, and that's what it looks like. That was done on a nice day. It's not so pretty when it's hosing down with rain. And you do have to have these hot standards. Certainly in the transition phase, when you're trying to lift intakes, they will push over the standards otherwise and go nuts and kill themselves. Okay. So just to illustrate what might have gone on some farms, I've put up two farms next to each other. One is Lochley, that's Scott's farm. Scott's sitting over there. He's on the panel a bit later on, and our own farm. Scott has responded to the changes by depowering the system, taking cows out, taking feed out, and we've been big-headed and just carried on as usual. So if you take away the grazed fodder beef, Scott's feeding about 1,100 kilo per cow in supplements. We're doing about 1,400. Scott is therefore defined to be in system 3 or 4, around about 20% imports. We're definitely in system 5. One of the moves is to get away from imported feeds. Scott's achieved that. If you look at the 190 figure, the 450 and the 300 in the table, it's imported, but his family is growing the stuff. So at the moment they're buying it in at market value, but that could change at the drop of a hat.